Welcome back. It's time now for Media Watch, and for that I'm joined here in the studio by James Creedon. Hi there, James. Now, lots of reaction, I imagine, online to all that talk of downgrade here in the Eurozone.
That's right. It's been the big media story on not just on France 24, but everywhere. And we'll just have a look at some of what the websites around the world and on social media, what they've been saying about this. Le Parisien, one of the websites here in France, Sarkozy and the government had prepared the ground for this announcement. That was one of the big angles in the media this afternoon. They were saying, look, this doesn't really come as a surprise. For a month or two, we've been hearing about this. Nicolas Sarkozy and other politicians had been, I suppose, the government PR drive had been to downplay the fears surrounding this for the last month or two.
That's what the finance minister was saying as well. He was saying, we were told about this on the 5th of December. No surprise. And AA+ isn't that bad anyway.
That's right. It's not the end of the world. Now, that contrasts quite greatly, actually, with what a lot of people were saying just a few months before that. If you go back to October, November, Alain Minc is one of the chief government advisors to Nicolas Sarkozy and an economist. The AAA rating of France is a national treasure, he said. Now, what a lot of people were saying towards the end of last year is it has to be saved at all costs. This is crucial for France. Nicolas Sarkozy was even reported to have said in private that he is dead meat, essentially, if the AAA rating is lost. He said, je suis mort, I am dead if we don't maintain it, in terms of his re-election hopes.
Well, this Friday marks 100 days. The 100-day countdown begins now to those presidential elections. So very interesting from a point of view of timing.
Absolutely, and it has been heavily politicised. We'll take a look at those reactions in a second, but I suppose just a look at some of the other reactions here in France first. Chronique d'une perte annoncée. Now, this is one of the financial magazines, L'Expansion. Now, what they're saying is, I suppose this was covered in Business News as well, if you go back 1 year ago, the whole notion of a AAA rating, of credit rating agencies, it was hardly in the public discourse at all. This has really heavily dominated the news in the last year, and indeed, in terms of new policies, such as retirement reform in France, a lot of people were saying that the AAA rating, or the risk of losing it, was used as a sort of a stick to beat the public into accepting these reforms. The AAA rating, maintaining it was so important that we had to kind of push through painful reforms such as retirement. So some people are saying that as well. If you have a look across the channel, perhaps no surprise that the Daily Mail, a little bit of pleasure seeing the French not doing so well. Humiliation of the French after lecturing Britain on its finances. France is stripped of its gold-plated AAA credit rating.
There's a bit of background to this, isn't there? Because the French were very much telling their cousins across the channel that perhaps it was them that should be downgraded ahead of anyone else.
That's right. There was a lot of kind of political, economic tit for tat in the last month between London and
the
Paris.
Daily Mail really twisting the knife there.
Yes, indeed. But that's actually their main economic story this evening. At the filthy home lab where fake dentists made wonky sets of false teeth to con elder. Anyway, that's the Daily Mail. We'll move on to the main political reactions making prominent in the media this evening. Marine Le Pen, the far-right leader. This is the first step in the breakup of the Eurozone. So you can see already that this is being instrumentalised as you said, just about 100 days ahead of the presidential election. She is the far-right leader. The far-left leader, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, he says that this is financial warfare being declared on France by Standard & Poor's and that the French must resist. So very sort of warlike language being used there. And so lots of reactions. Now, some people are sort of making light of it as well on social media. I suppose this isn't really the end of the world, even though to read some media, you might think it is. So some people, I suppose, taking a slightly less serious approach to things. So just to read out some of these, people are walking around bewildered. Someone is on the phone trying to reassure close ones. He hangs up in tears. So obviously joking about the level with which this is being, the gravity with which this is being reported. At the entrance to the metro, a man with a sign, "It's the end," handing out copies of the Bible and Challenge and Capital, which are financial magazines. And I think this one was quite funny, misquoting Charles de Gaulle. This was his famous speech after the liberation of Paris at the end of World War II. Outraged Paris, broken Paris, martyred Paris, and then, of course, it used to be freed Paris, Paris libéré, but here it's Paris dégradé. It rhymes nicely in French, so that one's been pretty prominent online. One image as well that's been pretty, that has got a lot of prominence on social media today. Nicolas Sarkozy, perhaps not very smartly timing the Galette des Rois festivities. That is a traditional start of the New Year festivity in France where you have a cake with little charms in it, and so he invited people. So it's a celebratory image, and I suppose on Friday the 13th, this is not exactly the image that would best capture the downgrading of France's AAA rating. Another thing that was being mentioned in the media today in terms of Friday the 13th, Spain was downgraded on Friday the 13th of October last year. So some people are sort of saying spooky sort of coincidence that Friday the 13th did indeed prove to be bad news as far as downgradings go.
All right. Well, on that rather doom and gloom note, James Creedon, thank you very much indeed. That was Media Watch. Well, do stay tuned to France 24 because coming up we've got lots more news, sports and culture.